Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read a story with you, and it's called Learning New Things. So, this is going to be in ReadWorks, and this is going to be a site that you're going to go to and hop on when it comes to reading. One thing that I like to do when I'm reading is I like to set a goal for myself. So, why am I reading this? What is the purpose of it? Today, the purpose of this reading is to kind of think about my reading and make sure that I'm understanding it. Because that's the big thing that we want to do. So, in here, learning new things, I'm going to go through and read this with you. And I'm also going to show you a couple of the features that you can use in ReadWorks. Sometimes there might be an audio. So, if you play the audio,
Learning new things.
It's going to read you the story. Okay. Over here, if I click the text, it's either going to make the text bigger or smaller. Okay. If I scroll down, this looks like a backwards P, but it's for paragraph. It's going to label the paragraph. So now this is paragraph 1, 2. I don't need that on right now. I can do this, and it's going to help me track my reading when I do it. I really like that feature, and it helps me make sure that I'm on the correct line and following what I'm doing. When we are finished with this, then there are going to be questions that go along with the story that I'm going to have you come back and answer. They do have a tool over here that's going to split the screen so you have the story on one side and the questions on another. And I think that's going to be really helpful in case you want to go back and check your answer in the text, which is something that we're also going to be learning to do. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this story to you. Learning new things. When I think of learning new things, I'm predicting that they're going to teach kids how to kind of be flexible with learning things, kind of like we're doing. We're learning this virtual world. But I don't want to go there, insisted Billy. He kicked at the ground with his foot. He twisted his body around, and he looked up at his mother with tears in his eyes. Billy was angry. His mother was a nurse, and she had a new job at a senior center. Old folks' home, Billy called it. Senior center, his mother corrected. Billy didn't like the seniors. He didn't like the senior center. He thought it was boring. So right now, Billy, he's just I feel like he's being a little bit selfish and just thinking about things that he wants. All right. Billy's mother wanted Billy to come to the senior center every day after school. Billy wanted to go see his friends or play video games or at home. Billy's mother wouldn't let him. I don't have a babysitter for you, she said, and you can't go to a friend's house unsupervised every day. The senior center was across the street from Billy's school. Come meet me at the center at 3 p.m., his mother directed. You could stay here until my shift ends at 4:30. That doesn't seem so bad. Getting there at 3 and then the shift ends at 4:30. I feel like that might be a good amount of time for him to do his homework. Maybe some days though he could go to his friend's house and then some days he could go to the senior center. Those are kind of the thoughts that are going on in my head. So when you are going to do your reading, I also want you to be thinking about your reading out loud. So it was decided. Every day after school, Billy said goodbye to his friends and he walked over to the senior center. Hello, Billy. How was school today? Asked Curtis when Billy came in. Curtis is the building security guard. Hello, Curtis. School is okay, Billy said. Every day at the senior center started like that. Billy would then go to the nurse's station where there was a quiet room. He would do his homework. Oh, remember I said homework. He would do his homework, then sit and stare at the walls. Billy would try to look as bored and as miserable as possible in the hope someone would notice and convince his mother to let him go home. He would sit and think of his friends, home playing video games. He thought of the worlds he could be creating and the monsters he could be slaying, if only he were playing video games too. Billy's mother didn't appreciate any of this. "You're being ridiculous," she said. "Why are you acting this way? The senior center isn't torture. There's a lot you could do here. I don't understand why you're being so dramatic," said Billy's mother, exasperated. "Why don't you help me or Curtis?" Exasperated. That is a pretty big word. So I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to come back to it a little bit later because I'm not exactly sure what it means quite yet. "No thanks," said Billy, who would go right back to looking miserable. A few days of this routine and Billy did start to get bored. His plan wasn't working. His mother wasn't giving in. Billy was going to have to get to like the senior center. I don't feel like it would be that bad to be there. You could maybe help out a little bit. The next day after school, Billy went to the senior center. He said hello to Curtis and he went to the nurse's station. See, he went to the nurse station. He could help out there. He did his homework, and this time, for a change, when Billy finished his homework, he decided to go exploring. Billy left the nurse's station. And turned right down the hallway. He had never seen the rest of the facility. The building was huge. Every hallway looked the same. Billy followed the hallway until it came to another hallway. And after a while, Billy was lost. Billy sat down in the hallway and he tried to remember the way back. He didn't want to ask directions. He wasn't supposed to be there. He didn't want to get in trouble, so he sat and he tried to remember the way out. He heard something coming from the door nearest him. "Oh, for goodness sake, Henry," said a woman. "You don't look anything like a knight of the realm. You look more like an elephant." "An elephant? If I look like an elephant, you look like a peacock," a man's voice replied. "They must be residents," thought Billy. So residents are people who live there at the senior center. Curious, he crawled over and he peeked inside the room. He saw something he had not expected. The woman who was speaking had on a pink tracksuit and an even brighter feather boa around her shoulders. The man she was speaking to was sitting in a wheelchair, holding a shield and a sword and wearing a helmet. The shield, sword, and helmet were made of paper and glue. They had begun to droop a little. Billy supposed this was why he looked like an elephant. Billy was starting to laugh when he saw the woman in pink looking at him. "Well, don't just sit there spying. Come on in," said another man. This man was speaking to Billy. He walked in. "Who are you?" they asked. Billy explained that he was waiting for his mother, the nurse. The seniors introduced themselves. The woman in pink was named Mildred, and the man in the shield was Harold. "Pleased to meet you," said Billy. He asked them what they were doing. "We're rehearsing for a talent show," said Mildred. "You have a talent show here?" said Billy. "Of course," said Mildred. "We're in the Senior Center Dramatic Society. We always perform in the talent show, and we rehearse even when there isn't a show coming up. Sometimes we make up our own plays." "It's important to be creative," said Harold. "It keeps you young." "Would you like to help us?" asked Mildred. "We need an impartial critic." There's that word, impartial. I'm going to highlight again because I'm not exactly sure what that means at this time. "My mother told me I'm dramatic," said Billy. "Great," said Mildred. "You'll fit right in." Billy agreed to help. He helps them read their lines and fix their costumes. Afterwards, they took Billy back to the nurse's station where his mother was waiting. Did you have fun? His mother asked Billy. Yes, I did, Billy answered. From that day on, Billy spent his afternoons at the center with the Dramatic Society. The seniors weren't boring at all. This story kind of reminds me of a saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Now I know they tell us that saying when we go to check out books from the library, but I also think that at first Billy thought the senior center was going to be really boring and he was just judging it because he thought old people were boring. And then he ended up really liking it. So, what's going to happen is this story is going to be assigned to you in ReadWorks. So, not only did you get to listen to me read it, but you're going to go back and read it a second time. It would be okay to listen to the audio, but then I also want you to be following along in the text. So, you might want to use this while it is reading to you. And then you're going to go ahead and complete 5 questions from the story, and you're going to submit. When you're done submitting, your quiz is going to be sent to me, and I'm going to be able to see how well you did on this. Let me know if you have any questions.